I still remember the exact moment my whole world cracked open. At our family's big holiday party in Chicago, Illinois, my daddy stood up with that big smile he saves for closing deals and important clients, raised his champagne glass high, and said loud and clear, "Clara, honey, I think it's time for you to go." Just like that. No yelling, no drama. Just those words slicing through the music, and the laughter like a hot knife through butter. Everybody froze. Forks stopped halfway to mouths. My mama's eyes went wide, but she didn't say a thing. My sister just stared at her plate like it was the most interesting thing in the room. And me? I sat there with my napkin crumpled in my fist, feeling my heart slam against my ribs so hard I thought it might break one. I started to stand up, legs shaking, ready to walk out with whatever dignity I had left. And then my husband, Jonah, pushed his chair back. That scrape on the hardwood floor was louder than any gunshot. He stood right beside me, tall and steady, and what he said next didn't just offend me, it blew the whole pretty lie my family had been living for years wide open. That night, I finally stopped begging for a seat at a table that was never meant for me. That night, Jonah showed me what real love looks like when it's got its fists up. Before I begin my story, I just want to say thank you for listening to me pour my heart out. It means more than you know. Please let me know in the comments where you're listening from and what time it is. I love picturing your world as I share mine. And if you haven't already, please hit that subscribe button. That little click helps me more than you can imagine. Now, let me tell you what really happened. I grew up in Chicago, Illinois, in one of those big old houses in the suburbs where the winters are brutal and everybody pretends life is perfect. My daddy, Richard Rowan, was a big shot real estate developer, built half the fancy high-rises downtown and in the nicer neighborhoods. Mama stayed home, kept the house spotless, volunteered at the church, and tried her best to smooth Daddy's sharp edges. We looked good on the outside Christmas card. Perfect, but inside, it was all about who measured up and who didn't. My older brother, Trip, played football for the University of Illinois, then went straight into Daddy's company and started closing million-dollar deals before he was 30. My sister Caroline became a nurse practitioner, married a doctor, gave Daddy 2 perfect grandbabies right on schedule. Their pictures were all over the mantle. Me? I was the one who loved painting watercolors of the lakefront at sunset, who read novels on the L till the end of the line, who dreamed about opening a little art gallery in Wicker Park one day. In our house, that made me the problem child. Daddy never hit us or anything like that. He just had this way of looking at you like he was adding up your worth and finding you short. When I was 16, I won a citywide art contest. My painting got displayed in the Art Institute's youth exhibit for a whole month. I was so proud I could barely breathe when I showed him the letter. He read it, nodded once, and said, "That's nice, Clara, but art doesn't pay the mortgage." I smiled like it didn't sting, folded the letter small, and stuck it in a drawer where it turned yellow. After that, I learned to keep the real me quiet. I went to UIC for business because that's what Daddy wanted. But halfway through, I switched to fine arts anyway. He stopped paying tuition the day he found out. "If you're gonna waste your time," he told me on the phone, "you can waste your own money." So I waitressed a diner in the Loop, pulled doubles on weekends, took out loans that still wake me up sweating some nights. I graduated anyway, moved into a tiny apartment in Logan Square, and started working at a little indie gallery, helping local artists get their work seen. That's where I met Jonah. It was one of those rainy spring afternoons when the city floods and the trains are packed. I'd just come from Sunday brunch at my parents', let out their afternoon of trip bragging about his latest condo development, while Daddy beamed and Caroline talked about the kids' elite preschool waiting list. I felt about 2 inches tall, so I ducked into the gallery to check on a new show. Jonah was standing in front of one of my favorite pieces, a big abstract of the skyline at golden hour, hands in his pockets, head tilted like he was really listening to what the painting had to say. He turned when he heard me, smiled this slow, warm smile, and said, "This one makes me feel like I'm seeing the city for the first time." even though I've lived here my whole life. Turns out he'd just taken a remote software job but stayed in Chicago because he loved the energy. We ended up talking for 2 hours straight. He didn't flinch when I told him about the loans, the waitressing, the family stuff. He just asked questions, real ones, like he actually cared about the answers. Y'all, Jonah was the first person who ever looked at me like I was enough, exactly as I was. He'd show up at the gallery on his lunch break with deep dish from Lou, Malnati's, and sit with me while I hung new pieces. He'd read my silly little poems I scribbled on napkins and tell me they were beautiful without adding, but when I finally took him to meet my family, Daddy shook his hand, looked him up and down, and he said, "Tech, huh? At least it pays better than painting." Jonah just smiled and said, "Yes, sir, but the best part is it leaves room for the things that matter." Daddy didn't like that much, but I felt something shift inside me, like maybe I didn't have to apologize for wanting a different life. We got married 2 years later in a little ceremony at Millennium Park Mall. Simple, perfect. Daddy didn't come. Said he had a closing that weekend, he couldn't move. Tripp sent a check. Caroline texted congrats with a heart emoji. But Jonah's parents came up from downstate. His sister drove in from Milwaukee. And my gallery friends filled the rows with so much love I cried through half the vows. For the first time, I felt like I belonged somewhere without having to earn it. Life got better after that. Jonah and I bought a little fixer-upper row house in Lincoln Park, peeling paint. Outrageous property taxes, but it was ours. I kept working at the gallery, started teaching weekend watercolor classes on the side. Money was tight, those student loans, the mortgage, health insurance, that costs an arm and a leg with all the deductibles. But we were happy. Then Mama got sick. Breast cancer, stage 3. She fought hard for 18 months, but it took her anyway. After the funeral, Daddy got quieter, colder. He sold the big suburban house, moved into a penthouse downtown, and started throwing these fancy family celebrations every few months. Always formal, always at some upscale venue like the Drake or a private club. I kept going because I thought maybe, with my mom gone, he'd soften. Maybe he'd finally see me. The invitation came in late November, heavy cream cardstock, Daddy's perfect handwriting, Rohan family holiday celebration, black tie, immediate family only. No plus ones mentioned, but Jonah said we'd go together or not at all. I bought a deep emerald dress that made me feel pretty for once, did my hair, even put on the pearl earrings Mama left me. In the car on the way over, my stomach was in knots. I kept thinking maybe this time would be different. Maybe he'd ask about the gallery or the classes, or just say he was proud I was paying my own way. Jonah squeezed my hand and said, "We're just going for dinner, babe. In and out. You don't owe anybody anything." The party was at a swanky hotel ballroom, downtown, twinkling lights, roaring fireplaces, string quartet in the corner. Everybody looked perfect. Caroline in red sequins, Tripp in a tailored tux, Daddy holding court with his developer friends. Nobody rushed over to hug me. Caroline gave me a quick air kiss and said, "Oh, you came." Tripp nodded like I was some distant cousin he barely remembered. We found our table way at the edge, next to Aunt Linda, who talks to her purse half the time. Dinner was prime rib in all the fancy sides, but it tasted like nothing. I kept watching Daddy laugh with Tripp. Toast Caroline's latest promotion at the hospital. He never once looked my way. Then came the speeches. Daddy stood up, tapped his glass, and the whole room went quiet like always. He talked about family legacy, hard work, contributing something real to the world. He praised Tripp's latest multi-million-dollar project, Caroline's life-saving work in the ER. Everybody clapped. And then he turned toward me, finally looked right at me and smiled that thin, tight smile. "Some folks," he said, "choose a different road, and that's fine. But tonight is about celebrating the ones who've built something lasting." The room got so quiet you could hear the fire crackle. "Clara, honey," he went on, voice smooth as ever, "I think it's best if you and Jonah head on home now." I couldn't breathe. My face burned. I felt every single eye on me. I started to stand, legs like jelly, thinking I'd just slip out quiet like always. When Jonah's chair scraped back, he stood slow, deliberate, and the whole room turned to look at him. Jonah didn't raise his voice, not once, but every word landed like a hammer on glass, cracking the whole facade wide open. He stood there in his navy suit, glass in hand, looking straight at my daddy like he was seeing him for the first time. "I'd like to make a toast too," he said, calm and clear. The kind of quiet that makes a noisy room shut up completely. Daddy's jaw tightened. "This isn't the time, son." But Jonah just smiled that small, steady smile, then went on anyway. "Actually, sir, it's the perfect time. You just told my wife, your daughter, to leave her own family's party like she's some stranger who wandered in off the street. So let me tell you about the woman you're trying to erase." The ballroom felt like it shrank 10 sizes. You could hear an ice melting in glasses, somebody's nervous cough, the string quartet fumbling to a stop in the corner. Jonah turned just enough to include the whole table, but his eyes kept flicking back to me, anchoring me. "Clara Rowan paid for every single college credit herself after you pulled the plug. She worked nights pouring coffee for rude customers, mornings scrubbing tables, afternoons in class, never missed a deadline. Graduated top of her department. She turned a tiny gallery in Pilsen into a spot where artists who never got a break finally got seen. She's mentored young women fresh out of foster care, helped single moms sell their first pieces, gave veterans with PTSD a safe space to paint their nightmares into something beautiful. Her shows have raised thousands for local shelters. That's contribution. That's building something lasting. But none of that fits your scorecard, does it? Because it doesn't come with a corner office or a 7-figure bonus. I couldn't breathe right. Tears were sliding hot down my cheeks. But for once they weren't from shame. They were from hearing my life said out loud like it mattered. Jonah kept going. "You raised your glass to excellence tonight, but you left out the part where excellence looks different for everybody." Clara chose courage over comfort every single day. She chose kindness over climbing. And the only thing she ever asked from any of you was to be seen. Not fixed, not changed, just seen. Tonight, you made it clear you never will. Daddy's face had gone red, then pale, knuckles white around his glass. Tripp stared at his shoes. Carolyn fiddled with her napkin like it might save her. Nobody, not one cousin, not one business partner said a word in Daddy's defense. Jonah looked at me then, soft and fierce, all at once. "Clara, I see you. I've always seen you, and I'm damn proud to stand next to the strongest woman." "I know." He set his glass down gentle, took my hand and said, "We're done here." We walked out together past the staring faces, past the untouched desserts, past the life I'd spent decades trying to fit into. The door closed behind us with a soft thud, and the cold Chicago air hit my wet cheeks like a splash of reality. In the car, I finally let the sobs out, loud, years worth of them. Jonah pulled over on Michigan Avenue, held me while traffic honked around us, and whispered, "You never have to go back." Not ever. That night, I slept curled against him, exhausted but lighter, like I'd finally dropped a weight I didn't know I'd been carrying my whole life. The fallout came quick. Tripp texted the next morning, "Way to ruin Dad's night." Dramatic much? Caroline called and left a voicemail I deleted without listening. Daddy didn't reach out at all. And honestly, that silence hurt less than I thought it would, because for the first time, I had real noise in my corner. My gallery friends blew up my phone with love and outrage. Jonah's mom called from Indiana just to say, "Honey, we're proud of you. I made an appointment with a therapist, one found through my insurance. Turns out sliding scale options exist if you dig, ladies. And employee assistance programs at work can hook you up with free sessions to start." Talking to her felt like unclenching fists I didn't know were balled up. She helped me name it: conditional love, emotional neglect, the slow drip of feeling never enough. And slowly, week by week, I started filling that hole myself. I leaned hard into the things that lit me up. I took my watercolor classes online, started a little Etsy shop for prints of Chicago rooftops and lake sunsets. Sales trickled in, then grew. I joined a women's art collective in the city. Real talk. If you're feeling isolated, find your people. Bumble BFF, meet groups, local yoga studios with women's circles. There are pockets. I started going to a Saturday morning yoga class in Lincoln Park, nothing fancy. Just stretching and breathing and women cheering each other on. My body felt stronger, my mind quieter. And when the anxiety spiked because old habits die hard, I learned little tricks. 5-minute meditations on apps like Calm. They've got free trials. Journaling prompts that asked, what do I need today? Instead of what did I do wrong? Money stayed tight for a while. Those loans weren't going anywhere. But Jonah and I got ruthless, got the streaming services we barely watched. Meal prepped on Sundays, refinanced what we could. I negotiated a small raise at the gallery by showing them the numbers on how much grant money my shows brought in. Ladies, know your worth and ask for it politely. Prepared, but ask. We built a tiny emergency fund, 3 months expenses, 1 paycheck at a time. It wasn't sexy, but it let me sleep without that knot in my stomach. 2 years later, almost to the day after that awful party, was standing in our little nursery, rocking our baby girl under the soft glow of a Lakeview mobile. Her name is Harper June Rowan. Harper for the strength I found. June for the month Jonah and I met. She's got my dark hair and Jonah's calm gray eyes. And when she grips my finger with her tiny fist, it feels like the universe saying, you did good. Mama. We'd moved to a bigger place in Edgewater, still Chicago, because I love this chaotic city. But with a yard big enough for a swing set someday, Jonah's job went fully remote. My gallery gave me a promotion to curator, and my online classes took off. During the pandemic, turns out a lot of women wanted creative outlets. When the world felt heavy, we threw a welcome home party for Harper. Nothing formal. Just potluck in our backyard with string lights and too much deep dish. My chosen family showed up. Gallery artists, yoga friends, neighbors who'd become like aunts. Jonah's parents drove up again. Even a couple women from my support group came with their kids. Laughter, real and loud, filled every corner. No speeches, no scorecards, just love without conditions. A few months ago, an envelope showed up in the mail, thick cream stock. Daddy's handwriting. I recognized it before I even opened the slot. I stood there holding it for a long minute, Harper asleep on my chest. Jonah watched from the kitchen, quiet, giving me space. I didn't open it. Not out of anger anymore, just peace. Whatever apology or excuse was inside. It couldn't rewrite the years I spent shrinking. It couldn't undo the night he chose status over his daughter. I slipped it into a drawer with old tax papers, out of sight, out of power. Because here's what I know now. Family isn't just who you're born to. It's who shows up when you're at your lowest and stays. It's who celebrates your weird, messy, beautiful path without trying to pave it over. I built mine one brushstroke. One budget, one therapy session. One deep breath at a time. And if you're out there listening, feeling like you're the odd one out, like you're carrying debt or grief or a diagnosis or a dream nobody gets, hear me. You are not too much. You're not behind. You are exactly enough right now as you are. Start small. Reach out to one friend today. Google that support group. Open that budgeting app. Schedule the doctor's appointment you've been avoiding. Say no to the family gathering that drains you. Say yes to the thing that makes your heart race. You don't have to earn your place at the table. You get to build your own. And when you do, there'll be room for everybody who truly sees you. I whisper it to Harper every night as I lay her down. You're loved because you're you. No conditions, no checklist, just you. And I say it to the woman I used to be, the one who stood up on shaky legs that night in the ballroom ready to disappear. I say it to her, to me, to all of us. You were always worth staying for. Thank you for letting me share this with you. If any part of it hit home, drop a heart in the comments. Tell me where you're at in your own journey. We're all in this together, sisters. Keep going. You've got this.